To order. Alex, do you want to go through roll call?
Yes. Okay. I keep losing my tab. There it is. Okay. Here we go. Devin Koenig-Cease.
Present.
Noah Fay. Eddie Matlock Mahone.
Present.
Martha Linder.
Present.
Portia Anderson. Patricia Sam. Elliot Hart.
Present.
Antoinette Lambert. Kelsey Beckmeyer.
Present.
Jaja Floyd. Here. Kenyatta Carol Hillman. Barry Tillman.
Here.
Okay, with 6 members present. Quorum is not met.
We can continue without quorum, I believe, because there's no decisions being made. Is everyone comfortable with that? This meeting will be recorded, or is recorded, I should say. All right.
Yep, sounds good.
Great. Well, welcome all. I hope you've had a good week and basically month since, or 3 weeks since I've seen you. Thanks for moving this up a week. I really appreciate it. Before we get started, we'll do the theory of change as well as the land acknowledgement. So the theory of change states that if we create a homeless response system that centers on people who have lived experience of homelessness, then we will be able to meet the needs and eliminate inequalities in order to end homelessness for all.
And I will read the land acknowledgement. I would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish people, past and present, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish tribe. We make this acknowledgement to remind ourselves that by being here today, we strive to remedy this injustice through our beliefs and actions in helping to steward our green spaces and communities in Seattle.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, so we're going to pick up kind of where we left last time, as well as talk about some new data that we have and data that will be coming on in June. As you know, our point in time count just went out, so our community impact team has been working really diligently to get us that data and to help us understand where we're at for this year. Thank you to that team, and they're working just as hard to get us data as well. So really appreciate that. I am going to share, one thing that I want to do, just top of business before we jump into the presentation. We do have, I think this was our oversight, we do have the public link as well as our meeting minutes and all the past recordings on the website. And so we want to make sure that members of the community can attend. Because this is a committee meeting, we don't really have time for public comment at this time. With board meetings, we definitely do. So I'm just letting you know that please check the website under our coordinated entry committee page, and you'll be able to find all the recordings and the meeting minutes and agendas on there. So, okay, let me share this. Actually, let me make it present and I will share. Okay. Can you all see that? Awesome. See thumbs up. Putting you on my other screen so I can see your faces. Okay. So as we know, we touched on this last week. I think everyone was in the room last week or month. Feels like a week. Last month. The goal of coordinated entry is to ensure households experiencing homelessness have equitable access to housing resources and to quickly resolve their homelessness. So we're really focused on equitable access as well as quickly resolving homelessness. That's our two tenets that were stood up here. And so as we look at this information, we definitely want to be centered on that and see how we can make systems improvements and or look at this data to help us kind of think about either processes that we need to improve and or like systems improvements that we need. So just focusing us on that. This week, I know I'm going to keep saying this week. The last month, we kind of did a big presentation. I kind of want to open up this one to questions along the way. So if you have questions along the way, please just raise your hand. We can dive into questions as they come up. I didn't know how long it was going to take last time, so I feel that this one will be able to review a lot of the past information as well as talk about some new data that we have. Okay, so as you all saw last month, we really talked about kind of what it takes, how we're serving folks from access to stability, looking at the whole system of coordinated entry and understanding kind of who we're serving, how we're funneling folks through. If we look at, referrals and move-ins, there were basically 722 units available for 14,000 people, but really 7,000 people in the past year that we assume are likely the households that are being engaged the most, right? After a year, maybe, but let's assume it's about 7,000 because we've assessed that many households in the past year. So that's 1,000 to 1 when we look at it. That's a lot. That's a huge number. And we're working with about 4,000 of those households towards nomination. So out of the 7,000, about 4,000 are being nominated for resources. And as we can see, consistently, they're being nominated at least 6 times on average. We know some are more, some are less, but on average, about 6 times per resource. We have about 1,800 referrals. And what that means is of those 722 units, they're coming online about 2.5 times, right? So we're looking, or 2.3, quick math. They're coming on at least twice at any given time. So that's something to consider, like where can we help make sure that units aren't coming on numerous times? Like what can we do there? Or how can we make sure that nominations, so that people aren't having to be nominated 6 times, we're giving the right information or helping with that process. There's so many different areas that we can step into. And I'm sure you've all had more thoughts since last month. So I'd love to hear them if you want to raise your hand. We talked about length of time. We talked about from assessment to referral, it's an average of 41 days. On the high end, 350 days. That it takes someone to go from assessment to referral. They may have been nominated, you know, those 6 times in between. That's a gap in data that we don't have at the moment, but we know from assessment to referral the amount of days it takes. And then we know from referral to move in, it's about 26 days on average, a high of 641. I'm hoping those are data errors because that's a really long time, to 7 days. So this is telling us that it is possible to move someone in 7 days. How do we get there? Or how do we get to even 2 weeks? There's got to be something that we can do to reduce that amount of time. Okay, so something you all asked about last time was the denial reasons. Like, why is it that units are coming back online? And what's the main reasons for this? Well, as you can see, it's kind of all over the place. And what we wanted to highlight here was what's more of on the housing provider side, what's more on the navigation, the services side, and what's more of the client. So you'll see that the majority of it is clients refusing. So what are we doing in that nomination process to make sure that the clients understand what they're being nominated for? So they aren't being nominated, then referred, then everyone's doing all this work. And they're like, nah, I don't want it, right? So what can we do more upfront to help clients understand what they might be nominated for? Only 24 were self-resolved. That's awesome. I love that clients were housed and that was a denial reason. Incredible. What's top for kind of the navigation side is unable to connect with client. So that means after we're doing the assessment, we're nominating them, clients are unresponsive. And we know there's numerous reasons for that, right? We're working with unhoused folks who have a lot of other things they need to address in that moment of their life. And they're displaced. This may also be attached to our outreach efforts that, you know, more folks who are unsheltered are being referred. And that's, you know, we may not be able to reconnect with them in a timely manner to get them into that resource. So that's huge to know. Another thing is the reason for document readiness. They're ineligible due to document readiness. This goes back to, you know, all the multiple things that unhoused folks are going through, whether that's trying to get to an appointment for Social Security card or ensuring that the document readiness for chronic homelessness is on file. Like there's so many things that our housing providers are requiring in order to move someone into a home. And so these are really big reasons that, you know, I'm looking at what can we improve in document readiness? Is there something we can do more on the front end as opposed to after they're referred? What are those things, right? And then on the housing provider side, we have provider denied. So this could also go back to, I think of an example of chronic homelessness. They didn't meet that definition. So they may be denied, right? There's numerous reasons for that. The second one here is full capacity, no availability. And what we know on our side of things, that may be like, what? How can you be full of capacity when you opened up this resource? there have been resources opened, numerous resources opened when in reality, there's only one. And so one of the things that our shelter inventory, who I believe Janelle is in our participant area, Janelle is on our community impact team. We are working on the shelter inventory project, which I'm hopeful that you all have heard about over time. But the shelter inventory will really help to eliminate that. Housing providers will not be able to put units online outside of their portfolio. So the inventory will be real-time opening, closing of units, and we'll be able to monitor that. If a provider wants to put another unit online because they're, trying to fill, they would have to go through our permission and explain, well, why? You have this other one open, you need to close that out. So we will be able to better monitor and be able to ensure that that aspect of it, those 36 get eliminated. Obviously, it will take time, but that is in the process as we get our shelter inventory up. And then the last one here is denial reason unknown. That's a big chunk, right? Like, why don't we know? And this is where our data, I think of it as, should we be looking at our denial reasons? Should we change kind of or modify to better understand what is the true denial reason here? There should never be an unknown. There should always be a reason. And so we want to, maybe that's something we look at, is how do we change our denial reasons so that we can better understand in HMIS why folks are being denied for housing. I'll stop here. Any questions? And Janelle just joined us on this side if we have any questions for our CI team. So, Sherry.
Yes. So thank you, Beth. My first question is, do we have access to this information? Are we able to get this information? I think it's really good. And then second, is I do agree with the my reasons, so that we, better understand why folks, what's the reason of the denial. And then the client refuse, I know, I'm on the call center part of it, bringing families into shelter. But I have worked in shelter as well, in permanent housing. And I know, folks have turned down maybe 4 or 5 times because of the location or, sorry, my background, or the, culture. And then it depends on the place too, if they have a bad reputation. And I know sometimes that, so sorry, that, if folks has been in the system for a minute, and they're trying to hurry up and get them out, not really kind of talking to the folks, it could be a rush kind of thing as well. So maybe probably asking them up front, like, what are you looking for? Then that way, I think it would be better. We'll have less refusal if we know what folks want. So that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, great points. Thank you. Elliot.
Hello. Yeah, I would just piggyback on what Sherry said there is that I think, and to extend that responsibility, I think it is the responsibility of referring partners to really make sure they have an understanding of what people want. I also think it's the responsibility of landlords to make sure that we're being transparent about eligibility requirements, how to document things, and what's the nature of the resource. What is this building? What do the apartments look like? All the stuff.
Martha?
So I second all of that, and then just definitely finding out like the unknown denial reasons, but if it's not too cumbersome, also just more detail for these other reasons. Like if the provider denied, is it because of a HUD requirement for homelessness or criminal history, or what was going on that caused that denial?
Mhm. Yeah. And that may be something that we could dig deeper into right now, and Leah might be able to speak to this a little bit more, but most of that extra information is subjectively cataloged as opposed to this is all quantitative information that we can actually pull. So how do we capture that? Like, how can we get data more easily without having, too many categories to choose from? So that could be an avenue that we look at. Like, that seems like an easier fix than some that could help inform us. But Elliot.
Having trouble with my mute button today. Yeah, I'm back again. Yeah, I think with denials, I think being able to track that information could be huge for this process, and you're looking at two things. You're looking at incomplete files and you're looking at denials. They're different. If someone's denied, why? What was the eligibility point? And likely, ideally we can handle things in drop down as much as possible and avoid narrative, because narratives are they kill data. But and if incomplete, why? What wasn't given? And I also think it would be interesting to track along with that, who is the referring agency and where were they referred to, and kind of watch both sources. Like, what's going on with the referring agency? Is there a need for some training? Is there a need to maybe connect a landlord with, I'm not going to throw Reach under the bus, but Reach is an agency that comes to mind, and kind of talk to them about how do you document chronic homelessness or what have you. Or is there something different happening with the landlord? Does it appear that Plymouth is reviewing something differently from how DESC views something? And what's that all about? Is there a misunderstanding in how they're reviewing an eligibility point, or is there some sort of different level of risk assessment that's going on? And knowing that could be really helpful.
Yeah. Thank you. I love how you brought up the training. I think that's really key. And so how can we build in training to our process for no matter which provider you are?
Right.
To help.
And I think that's the huge thing, because I think along with that, there's also the pressure on landlords. We answer to banks and to the IRS, and there's expectations around how quickly we do things. So we have to be aggressive in how we market and how long we hold an application and process for. So knowing that, what can we all do to really empower case managers to trickle that down and empower clients to know what resources are available, where do they want to get referred, and how are they going to document that so that they can get in on the first try.
Mhm. That makes me think of the housing needs form. How can we potentially improve that too, right? Devin.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll definitely, I think, really echo. I was going to add that understanding the denials by provider and by the resource, by the provider and the resource, having that breakdown, I think would be really helpful in seeing where we could target. Like, I'm just thinking with the county, if there's an area where we can target like technical assistance or supports, I would want to do that. And then also, I know last time we had really helpful data, and I really appreciate being able to look at referrals, and move-ins by demographics. And I think if there's a way to do that by denial reason too, I really want to pay attention if there are, certain groups that are especially refusing units more, or really any of the reasons. Being able to understand that would be good. And I know I'm just thinking too that there are like organizations that are, operated by and for a specific culture or ethnic group that they're serving. And a lot of times those resources are limited. compared to the whole portfolio of resources that we have in the county. And so it would be helpful to understand maybe, I'm sure that there are more people who want those resources than can access them, or I would guess. But being able to see the data behind that, I think would be helpful for
Yeah.
seeing the landscape more.
Yeah. And maybe Janelle can jump in here about demographics on denials, but that I'm taking notes to like figure out what we can potentially bring back next time. So thank you.
Thanks.
Janelle?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have them right now, so I'm sorry to not have, we would want to do a more of a review and come back with you for an analysis of denial reasons and equity. And then also tracking more of the details on the housing provider side and the referral side. And so I'll take that back to my team and we can prepare those for next time. Also kind of hearing that, and Beth, I'll let you know if this would be helpful or let me know if this would be helpful or not, but it's kind of hearing it might be good for this committee to see a little bit of the changes with the inventory project in regards to the new information that would be available, both by combining the housing needs form and the unit information that we have been collecting with providers. The information on units has largely been outside of the HMIS. This project moves that information inside. The benefit of that is we'll be able to do better querying and better coordinating between the housing needs form and the particular features of those buildings and those units, with the goal of bringing better matching forward. As we can see from the denial reasons, there does need to be some improvement there in that process, and making sure that we have done our due diligence and making sure that we're doing the best fit that we possibly can. So if that would be helpful for the committee, we can prepare something to kind of show you a little bit about what those changes would look like to the matching process. And I believe it's been a while now. We had reviewed this pick list option. And I believe we've made some additional changes to this pick list item based on some feedback. And so we can bring that also back here to the committee for you all to review.
Are you saying,
Wonderful.
sorry, are you saying pick list? Like,
The pick list for the types of denial reasons, like the drop down.
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
That would be great, Janelle. Maybe we can, I think by our next meeting at the end of June, we'll have already kind of like pushed out some of the inventory project from to all of our providers. So it'd be really great information if you could share that at our next meeting.
Yeah, your next meeting.
June 27th. So it's the last,
Okay, good.
yes, the last one.
Yeah, we can get something prepared for you guys. I don't know if I'll be able to pull something from the live site at that point, but I can definitely get a review of what the new fields will look like.
Wonderful. Does that sound good to everyone? I think that would be really helpful. Awesome. Thank you. So glad you're here, Janelle. Answer all these questions for us.
I'm happy to be here with you all.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else about denial reasons? I'm going to skip ahead some of these. The next we have is mobility requests. So Leah, do you want to take
Yeah,
that one?
absolutely. Hi, everybody. So at our
And
last,
Leah, do you mind just introducing yourself?
oh yeah, Yeah, hi everyone. Leah Fahori, she, her pronouns, and I am the program coordinator on the coordinated entry team at KCRHA. So thank you all so much for having me. At the last CEC meeting, when we were looking at all of the data, we heard a reflection around wanting to like get a little bit more insight into mobility transfers and mobility requests. And so I did a little bit of digging into the mobility transfers that we were seeing during the time frame of the data that we're looking at. So that is 1 year time frame between 4/14/2023 through 4/14/2024. And so when I was looking at the data, I really kind of wanted to focus in on mobility transfers that led to a referral. And so as a reminder, we had 1,838 duplicate referrals that we were seeing in that time period. And of those 1,838, there were 89 unique referrals that came out of mobility transfers. Of those 89 unique referrals, the breakdown that we saw were 34 led to a housed situation, 6 no longer needed a transfer, 43 were denied that initial referral and are awaiting placement elsewhere, and 6 are still pending for placement. Eddie, I see your hand raised. Do you want to ask your question really quickly on this data? And then I can kind of talk about where folks moved in those housed, in that housed category.
Yeah, this is not tracking internal mobility transfers because those are not being approved by you guys anymore. So if we're doing them within our own agency.
Correct. Thank you for that clarification. So this data is looking at mobility requests that we receive through coordinated entry to review, and then either approve or request more information and kind of determine where they're going. Internal transfers are internal to an agency, where an agency can kind of transfer one person from one unit to another, because there is a need to transfer someone. So this data is not looking at internal transfers. It's truly looking at which referrals had come from a mobility transfer. Sherry, I saw your hand go up for a moment. Did you have a question that you wanted to raise?
Yeah, I figure you probably might answer it, but I thought about just now. So when you say denial, sorry for the background. When you say denied and awaiting placement, does that mean like when somebody goes in to get the assessment, that's what that's talking about, and they have been denied or awaiting placement? Is that what you're talking about on that?
Yeah, so the 43, basically what that means is they have an approved mobility transfer and they were referred to a resource, and for a reason that resource, they ended up being denied, and so now they're awaiting placement for another resource. Some more like information that I can kind of just share to provide more context about this like subsect of people that we're looking at. This is a subsect of folks who have received a referral from an approved mobility transfer. That means that our team has reviewed a mobility transfer. We reviewed narrative that a provider has given us, and it falls within our decision rubric for what constitutes a mobility transfer. And we have deemed, yes, this is a mobility transfer. And with that approved mobility transfer, the provider is going out and renominating the household to another resource, and they get prioritized for that resource as part of our prioritization methodology. And so these folks are folks that were referred during that time period. I will say, in looking at the data, some of them are folks that like we did receive a mobility transfer in that time period, and some of them are mobility transfers that we received like in the previous year, and so they've just recently gotten renominated for a resource. So I will say that this is really just looking at the folks who received a referral. There are potentially like a different number that we could look at that shows us the number of mobility transfers that the coordinated entry has received during that time period that we have been reviewing. Some of them have led to like, this is not an applicable reason for a mobility transfer, or we're still under review. But I wanted to tie this data specific to the information around referrals. And so that's why we're looking at this 98 number. If we could move on to the next slide, I did want to give a little bit more insight into the housed. So I just wanted to provide some insight into where folks originated from and where they moved to as part of these mobility transfers. So again, there were 34 households that ended up being housed out of the 89, and then the rest are still in process. And originated, so we had 7 households originating from a PSH, a permanent supportive housing. 15 originated from rapid rehousing and 12 from transitional housing. Where they went to, we had 2 move into a permanent housing project, 25 moved to permanent supportive housing, 2 to rapid rehousing, and 5 to transitional housing. Do folks have any questions or reflections on like what we're seeing here in this data?
Is this reflective of just single adults or all populations?
Great question. All populations.
I was about to ask, because I was like, I don't know of any transitional housing that's in the single adult space right now.
Yeah, it is looking at all across all populations.
Did such a great job, Leah. No one has questions. Anything else people are thinking? No?
How does it work, Leah, when you're assessing someone to be moving into a PSH unit that was in a rapid housing? Like, do you have to do, how does that affect with the chronic homelessness? How do you guys
Yeah, so we look at a number of things when we receive a mobility transfer. The first thing I wanted to name is we review mobility transfers as a team. So it is a collective consideration as opposed to falls on one person. And when we review mobility transfers, there are a number of reasons that a provider gives us as to why a mobility transfer is needed. For example, an imminent safety risk, geographic change, a change of service need, either increase or decrease, change in family size, or aging out because of age restrictions. And that's usually in like the youth space. So when we receive mobility transfers, the provider is indicating what type of transfer this is, and they provide a narrative for us to review. And oftentimes we ask additional questions and try to dig deeper into what is going on. When we have reviewed the mobility transfers, and if, for example, it is a change in service need increase and they're going from rapid rehousing to a PSH or whatever that might be, we also will consult with the case manager around what is their documentation and their chronic homelessness status and their disability, because we can't just we can't just approve it. They also have to be able to meet the incoming provider's documentation requirements. And so when we're reviewing mobility transfers, oftentimes for rapid rehousing, it looks at what was their status before they moved into rapid rehousing. So it looks at their chronic homelessness status prior to moving in, to see if they're eligible or not for a PSH. Does that answer your question, or did you have additional questions about that?
No, thank you, that was perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will share, if folks are interested, the information on mobility transfers, the policy, the form, and then the decision rubric that we use is all on our website, and I can put a link in the chat if folks are interested in looking into it.
Yes, please add that to the chat. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Well, this is the end of our slides. So next month, what I have on is to revisit some of the data that we raised during April. One thing on the list that we needed more time to gather was referrals. Where are they coming from? Is that outreach, shelter, like what is the location? So that's on our queue to have for next month. That's going to be something that we're going to review. We also have Janelle, who's going to talk about the shelter inventory project and help us understand what's going to be changed within that to help with the matching process. I think that will help us understand what things we might be able to provide better training on and or support for our providers, because that was brought up today. And we want to make sure that let's see what's being updated in the system, and then we can incorporate that into the training. And then we have, I'll talk with the CI team about understanding the demographics for denials. I think that's something we'll be able to pull, but I want to speak with them to make sure that they can get that to us next month. So it's just a matter of timing on that one, I think. Is there anything else that I'm missing from this? Requests for data. And I want to, you know, in addition to, I think we're still kind of thinking about this data, understanding it, where we want to make areas of improvement. Do we already have some like conclusions of certain things we want to focus on given the past 2 months? I'm going to open that here. But maybe we just need more information. So. Any thoughts? Devin.
Oh, let me know if you have trouble hearing too. I'm just getting the like connection issues notification.
Okay.
So, okay, great. Yeah, it was really helpful to see the mobility request data. Thanks, Leah, for sharing that. And I am especially interested where there are mobility requests out of permanent supportive housing, and looking at sort of cases where people are requesting a transfer from PSH to PSH, and what that looks like. And it's actually, you know, it looks like it's a small number. I think it was only 7 that had mobility requests out of PSH. But considering that too, in the context of service match, because, you know, maybe it fits in with the bigger picture of helping people find the right resource or providing information in advance. So kind of topic for more exploration.
Noted. Thank you. Janelle?
Thanks. I had something, but I wanted to do a quick follow-up to Devin's statement here. When you're saying in the context of service matching, is there any anything in particular that would be helpful for our team to kind of narrow in on?
Thanks. Yeah. I guess I'm not sure if there's any more like data or information kind of about the transfers out of PSH and what the reason is. That would be helpful. Just, you know, because since PSH is like should be the highest level, if people are requesting something different, is it more services or is it just location? Is it you know, imminent risk of harm?
Yeah.
So-
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Take a look at that.
Thank you.
And I was just gonna mention, Beth, for the agenda prep for next month. For the overview of the bed and unit inventory, that's for both shelter and housing programs, anything with inventory in the HMIS. What I was hoping, I can present this, and then if the committee, when we do the presentation, be kind of thinking about what kind of reports or what kind of information would be good for us, for our team to start thinking about, or what you would need out of that. And so I'm hoping that when we do the presentation next month, that could be something kind of in the back of the mind of the committee to be kind of thinking about, so that as we can be prepared for like some of the key information that would be important that we pull out for future data requests for you all.
Yeah, so Janelle, when you say that, when you go over, let's say, the matching data and the different points, like what would be helpful for this committee to be
Yeah,
focused on? Okay,
yeah, that would be good.
great. Okay. Yeah. So something all to think about. We don't know everything that's going to be presented, but I think we can remind ourselves once, right before the presentation, to like think about that. So definitely.
Yeah, I'll do like a reminder to, but like that would be like super helpful if we are thinking about the information in that context of like, what does this committee need to be monitoring when it comes to changes to bed and unit inventory?
Yes. Great. I'm going to do a gut check here. How is everyone feeling? Is all of this helpful? Is it getting your brains kind of thinking about how we can make some changes? Great. Good. I see some head nods, so that's really good. Yeah, I think for me, it helps me ground it in what are we seeing in the different perspectives, and how are we really focusing in on key issues with the data. Like, we have our gut feelings. Let's look at the data. Let's bring those together and see where we can actually make systems improvements. So this is good. Great. I'm going to open it up if anyone has anything else to add.
I just want to say I really appreciate the data. I love being on this committee because I just feel like everybody's on the same page, and we are trying to do what works better for folks to make it easier, clarify and get folks off the street. And so I just want to say I really appreciate everything and the ideas that we have to try to work to make it more successful.
Thank you, Sherry. That was great. Yeah. Really good to hear. Wonderful. Well, if there's nothing else, our next meeting will be June 27th. So the last Thursday of the month. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out in the meantime. Sherry, I think you had at the top of the hour a question about this information being shared. We'll make sure to send it out to the committee, and things will be updated on our website. So post this. All right. Thank you all. I hope you have a good weekend ahead.
So,
Bye.
Thank you all. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.